Well, hello, and welcome to Faith Works Designs. I'm Faith, and I just started a series of cloth diaper items because I used cloth diapers, and it seems to be kind of a growing trend for people to be a little more eco-friendly. And so I wanted to offer up some items for you guys that you can make yourself to be able to make your life a little easier when having to do cloth diapers. Now, the first one I have is what we're doing today. For our very first video is we're going to be doing a wet wipe pod. These are great. They're just the right size for 6x6 wet wipes, and they can hold them wet or they can hold them dry. If you have one of those little spray bottles that you use, it's lined with pool, so it is waterproof. And then we're also going to go ahead in this series, since they're basically the same thing, I am making a ditty bag. Ditty bags are great for makeup and shampoo and stuff like that when you're traveling. I did a larger ditty bag so that you guys could see a little easier how to do all the little steps. So if you'd like to join us, let's get started. Alright, so what you're going to need is to pick out your fabric. Pick something fun, something kooky, and I'm going to give you the directions for the wet wipe pod first. So with the wet wipe pod, you guys know I love directional fabric. So if you've got a directional fabric, this is actually really good to be able to understand this and know this. So if you've got a directional fabric, you've got to really be careful when you're laying it out and you're cutting it that you do it in the right direction so that all of your stuff is facing the right way. Now, for the wet wipe pod, you're going to need to make sure that it's 10 inches this way and 8 inches this way. So when you're cutting it out, make sure that it's the 10 is going towards the print so that it's facing down. Because if you accidentally cut it 10 inches this way, your print's going to be sideways. It's just how when we lay it out and we put it all together, that's how you're going to know if you've got the print sideways or not. So just make sure that you go 10 inches this way, 8 inches this way. You're also going to need to get some stuff that's called fleece interfacing. It's so soft and it feels so good. It's like regular interfacing. It has bubbles on one side, and then on the other side it's kind of like a really soft fleece feeling kind of fabric. You can buy it at Joann's, you can buy it Hobby Lobby, you can buy it online, you can find it anywhere. So basically what you do is you take your fleece, you lay it on your ironing board with the bubble side up, and then you take and you put your fabric right side facing you, and then you put your fabric down, you iron on it until the bubbles kind of melt. It only takes really a few seconds. And then you're all done and it's nice and on there. For the next couple of steps towards the end, when we're making our little box pleat things, it's really going to be important that this is attached correctly, and that way you're not accidentally just pinching the inside fabric and not the outside fabric. You'll see when we get to that point. You're also going to need some pull. Pull is found, you can get it at Hobby Lobby if you need to get it locally and you just want to do something quick. Or cloth diaper sewing supplies, I believe. I used to buy from them a lot. So this is basically a fabric that a lot of people use when they're making cloth diapers. Essentially what it is, this is the waterproofing fabric. So anything, you can make wet bags, diapers, the wet wipe pods, things like that. And you also want to make sure you cannot iron on this and you cannot pin this. So when we get ready to go, I'm going to show you, I've got some of those wonder clips you can get from Amazon. They're amazing, especially if you're going to be doing projects like this. For the wet wipe pod, you're going to need at least a 12-inch zipper. I have a gigantic one because it's the one that matches all of my stuff. And it's what we have, so we're going to use what we have and be good stewards of what we have. So now, the ditty bag is going to be a different measurement. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to do the ditty bag first because it's bigger and it'll be easier to show you kind of all of the little steps, and then we'll do the wet wipe bag. So if you're not interested in the ditty bag, just do the measurements of the wet wipe pod and do the steps with me. They're all the same steps, it's just two different measurements. These are really nice for like makeup and traveling. We carried a bunch of them to Florida. I have 5 children. And my 2 teenagers have like a ton of crap that they have to take with them. So I made them a ditty bag, put all their makeup, deodorant, toothpaste. These are really great, and you can make them yourself, and that way everybody can stay organized. So the ditty bags are 10 by 13. So it's going to be, again, if you've got a directional print, the longer side, 13 is going this way. So it's 13 wide by 10 long. And that's the only difference between the wet white pod and the ditty bag, just the measurements, that's it. We're going to be doing the same steps with both. I went ahead and I backed mine with the fleece interfacing. I just felt like it gave it, it made it a little stiffer but not so stiff. Just a little body to it so that it can stand up on its own when you've got stuff in it. Again, you're also going to need pull, 10 by 13. And then for that one, because it's 13 wide, I would get a 14-inch zipper. Again, we're using what we got. So grab all of your materials and let's get started. Alright, so we've got all of our materials ready to go. So now I've got to do a little bit of explaining. So with the zipper, when I say the right side, what I mean is the side with the pull on it. Then the back side is the wrong side. Kind of like you have the right side and the wrong side for fabric. That's kind of what I'm talking about. So when I say the right side, that's the side that I'm talking about. Pull has one side is very shiny, you can kind of see it, and then the other side is kind of like more like a material feel to it versus like the really shiny part. So the very first thing that we need to do, and I should have done already, is grab your little clips. If you don't have these yet, you really ought to get you a few. Amazon, they're like really cheap. You can get like a whole bunch of them, and I use them all the time. I quilt, so I use them for that, but then I started doing a lot of cloth diaper stuff, and then I started using them more and more. So keep that in mind. If you don't have them, it's okay, but with pull, you just cannot use pins, so that's going to be your best option. Now you're going to grab your pull and make sure that the shiny side is up. Then we're going to lay down our zipper. Now you can do this either side, it really doesn't matter, but the zipper right side needs to be facing up. And what I mean by the direction, you can put the zipper on this side, it doesn't matter. Just I'm left-handed, so I tend to put it on the left side. It's just me and my weird self. Alright, so directional fabric, yay, we love it so much. Alright, the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your Harry Potter here with it facing up. And then you're going to put the right side of the fabric to the right side of the zipper. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to clip all the way across the top. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to sew all the way across there. Alright, so we've got our zipper foot on. And we've got it to where it's going to sew on the right side of our zipper. And we've got everything all pinned up, so we just get started. Alright, so hopefully you can see that I've stitched right along here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open it up so the right side is facing you. And you're going to pull the pull out of the way of the zipper. Now the next thing we're going to do is called top stitching. And basically what you're going to be doing is sewing a stitch all across the front and the back at the same time. And that way it just keeps your fabric out of your way while you're trying to sew. And you have to make sure that when you're sewing your top stitch that this isn't like bubbling up. You've got to kind of pull it out of your way. Now in an ideal world, you could just take a pin, pull it, put a pin in it, and it'll sit still. But we can't do that with pull. So as we're sewing, you're going to have to pull the pull out of the way. And we're just going to sew right along there. I'm going to get my strings out of my way. And then just take your fingers underneath, make sure that pull is out of the way. And then just kind of stop every so often and check. we've done a very nice top stitch. And it'll look nice on the outside of the bag and the inside of the bag. And it'll keep that pull from bubbling up and getting tangled in with your zipper teeth. So that is side number one. Alright, so you have got this all put together so far. Now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your other piece of pull, and then you're going to put what we just sewed on top of that, like this. Make sure that this bottom piece is shiny side up, and then put this on top of it, and then grab your other fleeced piece, top piece. And then what I forgot to mention earlier was we're sewing the zipper across the 13-inch side. I forgot to mention that, sorry. You're going to take it just like it is with the print facing up, and when you're looking at it, it's the right direction. It's not upside down, but it's facing up. And then you're going to turn it over, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to pin across the top, or not pin, clip. And then you're just going to sew straight across there just like we did with the first one. Alright, now what you're going to do, just like before, you're going to sew on the right side of the zipper and attach the pull and the top piece. Now you're going to open it all up so that you've got pull on one side out of the way of the zipper and the front out of the way of the zipper. And you're going to do just like you did on this side. We're going to be top stitching it, and make sure that you get the pull out from underneath of it so it looks like that. And you're going to go ahead and sew that. You can make a really bad joke about pulling the pull. Get it? Cut your strings. Now what I would normally do is I would change my thread back to like white, because you're going to be dealing with the pull once it's sewn together and you're actually leaving a hole in the middle. I'll show you all this in a minute. But it'll just look nicer if you go ahead and change your thread to white. Now we're going to take our very front flaps with just the fleece and the cotton, and you're going to pin those together. Or you can pin this side or you can clip this side. I find it's just helpful to just go ahead and clip, that way you don't accidentally put a pin in your pull. Alright, now on the pull side, this is what we're going to do. Hopefully that's in shot. Alright, cool deal. Now I'm going to put 2 on each side and explain how we're going to do our little closure process. So what you're going to do, bring it a little bit closer so you can actually see what I'm doing here. What you're going to do is you're going to sew about 3 or 4 inches to about here. And then you're going to sew 3 or 4 inches here. The idea is you've got to leave a hole opening right in between there. I would leave about a 3 or 4 inch opening. And what I'm going to do with my sewing machine is I'm just going to sew, stop, back stitch, jump it, pick up my presser foot, lift it up, move it down, put my needle back down, back stitch, keep stitching all the way across, and that way I leave a hole here. And that's going to be for when we want to turn this inside out. Alright, so I've put my regular sewing foot back on, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew and then stop. Make sure you back stitch. Stop here, back stitch. I'm going to lift up my needle and my presser foot and just scoosh it down a little bit. Put my presser foot back down. Make sure you back stitch. Okay. Now we're in a pandemic, so we want to save some thread. Can't tell you how many times I've ran out of white thread and can't find it anywhere. Thank goodness it's not as bad right now. But anyway, I'm a quilter, and what we do is called chain piecing. And basically, instead of lifting up my presser foot, pulling this out, cutting the threads, putting this back down, starting to sew, and then cutting more threads at the end, you just put it right behind it. You're not going to sew them together, but you're going to put it right up behind it and start sewing. And that way you avoid wasting all of that thread. And after a little bit of time, it actually saves you a ton. Now this piece you're going to sew all the way across. Okay, so you have sewn all the way across, and you'll notice that you've left yourself a nice little hole so that you can turn it inside outwards when you're all done. Now what I want you to do is grab the fabric side, and I'm going to lay this down when I do it, but you're going to find the seam right here, this seam, and you're going to put it to the middle of your zipper. Okay? Get your zipper out of the way. Now, you're going to find the seam in your pull, and you're going to put it to the back end of the zipper. So you've got all these seams all in the same place. And then you're going to clip to get it closed. If you need to replay that, go for it. But basically, you can do that looking at you, but then I would clip it. All the seams are going to be on top of that zipper. So the top seam goes on the right side of the zipper, and the bottom seam will go underneath the zipper on the bottom part. And then you just clip. Okay. We're getting closer. Same thing with the other side. You're going to grab the cotton seam right here, put it to the seam of the zipper. Make sure all those fabrics are all right there. Get your zipper out of the way. And then find your pull seam, which is right here, and put it on the back of your zipper. Okay? And then you're going to clip all of these fabrics together when you get them to behave. So essentially all of your seams are right there where that zipper is. Now I'm going to lay this down so it'll be a little bit better. You can kind of see what I'm doing. When I do it in front of myself, here we go. I'm going to work around the camera here. So I've got this seam here. I put the zipper down right on top of that, so right down the middle of the zipper. And then I've got this seam right here, and it's going to go right on top of the back end of that zipper. And just kind of hold everything still so that it doesn't move. Alright, now the end that has your zipper pull, you're going to need to open this up. And what I normally do is I open it up and I open it till about here, just so that the zipper pull is out of my way on both sides. Okay, so hopefully you could see that. So I took it, opening up my zipper, and if you have to, you can open one side up. But just make sure that everything is laying the way that it was, and make sure that you go back and clip everything so that it doesn't move. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing down this side and down this side. If you don't pull your zipper through the middle, your zipper pull is going to be out here and you won't be able to open your bag. So that's normally the last step that I do, is pull the zipper out of my way. Alright, so we've sewn down both ends of our bag, and what I would go ahead and do is get you a good pair of scissors, and I would cut the tails out of the way just to get them out of the way. Some people like to put a larger, wider zigzag stitch on your zipper so that it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't open on its own. But what I normally do is when I'm sewing, it's my kids playing downstairs. When I'm sewing, is what I do is when I get to the zipper part, I'll sew over the zipper and then back stitch and then sew over it again. For the next step, you're going to need a 45-degree angle ruler. This is going to be really helpful to get those little corners and making sure that we're getting the measurements that we need. Most rulers, I would think, would have them, but look on your ruler and see if it's got that 45-degree angle on it or not. Alright, so now we're going to grab this and we're going to go to a corner. We're not going to pull the pull. I wonder how many times I've said that in this video. We're not going to pull the pull. We're going to pull the fabric, the cotton and the fleece together. That's why I said in the beginning it's going to be really important that the cotton and the fleece are ironed well together. So grab that. Now what we're going to be doing is making a triangle with it. I can get it to work with me. And I'll do it again so I can show you. Okay, so the pull is out of the way. This is why I did it with a larger bag so that you could see. It's a little easier to do it on something that's larger. So you take the fabric, cotton, and the fleece, and you get it to a triangle as best you can. Then you're going to take your pull and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to make it lay out like it's a triangle. The very next thing you need to do is you need to feel with your finger and see if that seam is right down the middle. The seam is going to have your pull, your cotton, all of that stuff in one thing. So just everything will be where it's supposed to be if your seam is right down the middle. And let me do it one more time to show you. So grab it like this. We're going to open her up, get the rest of this out. Aren't you glad I started with the bigger bag? Okay, and then there you go. I can like visually see it, that the seam is running right down the middle. So that one's good. It may take a few tries just to figure out what you're doing, and that's okay. Take your time because this is kind of one of those crucial things that needs to be gotten right. So make sure that your seam's down here. Now, with that 45-degree angle, here's what we're going to do. With my puppy barking at somebody. Phoebe. Alright, hopefully you can see it. The glare is kind of stinky on this table. Phoebe Marie. Okay, so you've got your 2 inches here. The point of this, so as you can see, the point is at the 2-inch mark. Can you see that in the corners? Phoebe Marie. Alright, there's 2. This is your 45-inch degree line right there. Alright, so I have marked my 2-inch line, and I've got my clips all the way back, so when I sew, they're not going to be bothered. So what I would do is just go ahead, start, back stitch, go all the way across, start, back stitch, and come off, and you're going to do all 4 sides just like that. Okay, so you've got all 4 sides done, and it looks really smushed and really funny, which is fine. That's the way it's supposed to look. Now, if you notice, there's going to be 2 on one side, and then 2 on the other side. He's hiding. There he is. And 2 on the other side. Make sure that you've got all 4 corners done. And that'll make sure that you've got your bag completely done. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to find that middle that we left open. This is why we left it open, so that we can turn it inside outward. Alright, now you can see from the inside we've got those little box. We've made our little box here. And you've got, probably should sit down so you can see me. We've got it all turned inside outwards, and now you see that we've still got this open. So what I normally do is I try and get that seam up, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip it, and then you're just going to sew across it. Now if you're doing like the cloth diaper pod that's coming up soon, you can do like a ladder stitch across there, and then you won't see the seam at all. It'll be completely enclosed. With pull, it's a little harder to do that, so I normally just do a quick little seam on the bottom, and it's not really that big a deal. You're all done. You've got your little ditty bag for your little road trips or camping trips or things that you need to carry your toiletries with you. I made the wet wipe pod because I don't have a ton of makeup, and I made the wet wipe pod and I put all my makeup in there, and that way if anything accidentally spills out, at least it'll be caught in the pool and it won't be all over the place. So these things can be multi-use. It's not just for babies, you can use it for yourself. So there's the ditty bag. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start sewing up the wet wipe pod. It's the exact same steps. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just do all the steps in fast forward motion, and when I get to the triangle part, I'll stop and I'll show you what I'm doing. Alright, now we're at the wet wipe pod. It is almost complete. We're going to do the corners for you. Now the camera's a little high up, but you grab the corners just like you did with the larger bag. It might be better to actually like practice with the other bag and then make your wet wipe pod, because they are so small and it's really hard to maneuver around. So you're going to take your pull and get it into a triangle. I can kind of visibly see it needs to go over just a little bit, just a smidgen. Okay. Now I run my finger down the middle and I can feel that it's right on the money. It is right down the middle. So I'm going to put my clips on. Okay. Just like that. Now we're going to get that 45-degree angle. Now with the wet wipe pod, you're going to be doing 1.5 inches. There we go. I'll fix it. Alright, so it's 1.5 inches. Your pen, and you're going to mark it right across there. And remember what we did was we were lining it up with this 45-degree line right here, and then we're putting the very tip at the 1.5 inch mark. Close enough. Okay? Then make your mark across there, and then go ahead and take it to the sewing machine. Make sure that you backstitch, come across, and backstitch at the end, because you don't want these popping out. So go ahead and do that on all 4 corners. Alright, so I've got all 4 corners sewn down just like I did with the other pod, and the very last thing you're going to do is turn it inside out. So now all you have to do is close your seam. So I like to watch TV while I'm sewing. I like to watch other costumers or people that sew, just to kind of get ideas. One day it will happen. I'm going to be getting into costuming because it is like on my to-do list. I made a 1910s cape from American Duchess. It was amazing, and I love it so much because it's got my Doctor Who fabric on it. That's another reason why it's amazing. And it reminds me of the show Call of the Midwives. Makes me so happy. I can't wait till it gets cold so I can actually wear it. But anyway, today I'm watching Bella May Designs. And this girl is only 20 years old. 20 years old, and the costumes that she makes is unbelievable. Like, the talent is just crazy. And I love her even more because I just found out she was homeschooled before homeschooling was a thing, because now everybody's having to homeschool. Anyway, so check her channel out if you get a chance, if you're looking for something else to watch, or if you want to get into costuming and watching her. She's doing a really cool series right now for the Phantom of the Opera. It's gorgeous, and she's got like some mad skills. So anyway, now you have your ditty bag and your wet wipe pod. And they're really super helpful. With a wet wipe pod, I would suggest not super soaking your wet wipes. I've had a couple people that like literally pour water in there and they will leak through just a little bit. So what I've told people is to make sure that they're like lightly damp, or you could carry around one of those little spray bottles and then keep your wipes in here dry, and then you just take your wipe out, spray it down, do the cleanup, and then go from there. Throw them in your wet bag when you're all done with them. These will actually fit. I made some 6x6 wet wipes, and I think there was like 22 of them, and they fit really nicely in here with a little bit of extra room. So if that gives you any idea of what they'll hold, they're just really nice. I liked having them when my kids were little. They're still kind of little, but anyway, we're not going to think about kids growing up. So hopefully you like this. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up if you don't mind. If you'd like to stick around and see the cloth diaper pad and the wet bag, hit that subscribe button if you want to. Just saying.